What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lore Reloaded. My name is James, your lore master of the day. Glad to see all of you guys here for this Lore in the Past, where we will be talking about Star Trek Online and specifically the Jem Hadar and probably the Star Wars clones, because that's already gotten into the chat. Before I do, got a couple of things to tell you guys I'm super excited about. Stream Elements. Everything you see, the alerts, everything like that, is done through a program called Stream Elements, which is much better than the other program that a lot of people like to use, or the other online. I even forget their name because they're not that important to me. Has teamed up with me, got us some cool stuff coming up, including they're going to be doing some fancy stuff to the channel, adding some stuff, and I even get some free swag, and swag I can give you guys. Looking forward to it. Also, if you're not following me on Twitter, twitter.com/Lore Reloaded, you need to. If anything happens on this channel, that's where I'm going to be. If you don't like Twitter or it's against your religious beliefs, check me out at facebook.com/Lore Reloaded, because I talk there as well. Plus, no religion is against facebook.com. Now that's fact. With that out of the way, let's say hi to a couple people. We got Lux Vertos here already. Captain George, who wants to talk to me about clones and them being enslaved. Not sure if he believes they were enslaved or not. Darth Revan up in the house. First person to comment today, Audris Ahmed. Always a pleasure, Audris. Nate Watson. Always fun to have Nate Watson here. We also have Jonathan Medina. Car Galaxy Studios. Afternoon to you as well, good sir. And Lux Vertos. Typical. I'm early and Firefox derps up. That's why you need to go with Chrome, good buddy. Chrome. So let's just get into it. We got Nate Watson. Lore Reloaded. I wonder what role the Jem Hadar played in the founders' views on solid life. It probably made them regard solids more and more as disposable and replaceable. You know, what I honestly think probably happened. So we're going to be talking about the Jem Hadar. This is in honor of Star Trek Online coming out with their new DLC. You guys should check it out. I was supposed to have one of the Cryptics devs on this week. Unfortunately, they canceled to next week. But hopefully we will have them on next week. So the Jem Hadar themselves are, of course, a genetically modified race of warriors that do the bidding of the changelings. And so Nate put out there, I wonder if the Jem Hadar made the changelings believe that solids were disposable. I think it was the other way around. I think that the changelings decided that solids were disposable people, that they weren't worth anything, that they were lesser than, and created the Jem Hadar in that image. Of course, we got Shifty, who says that I am a sexy beast, who gets upset because he didn't get a shout out, but Shifty doesn't know that Shifty needs no shout out. You either are Shifty or you're not. And if you're not a good person. I mean, that's just the way it is. So, I don't know the full DLC, and I don't know a lot of the rumors behind it. And I'll be honest, I've gone out of my way not to read any of the backstory, nor to have an understanding of what is going on in the DLC. Because when I play it live with you guys on twitch.tv/Lore Reloaded, I want to hit it fresh, without any background or understanding of what's going on. I think that's going to be I think you guys are going to get a good response from it, and I also think that that's a way you should enjoy a game for the most part. So, Oratakawa, who says, from the outset, I will say that Jem Hadar will always be a slave race as long as Ketracel White and the Founders exist. Now, from what I've looked at, and from what it seems to me, it does feel like the Jem Hadar are definitively a slave race during the Dominion War. But the question becomes, are they going to be a slave race in the expansion? Based on what we've seen, I do think they are going to be a slave race, especially since we do see them in some of the episodes currently out, where Odo has sent them off to do his bidding, right? They even have some words like for the Founders and things like that during certain episodes where it's teasing that the Dominion needs your Help. Victory is Life. Victory is Life is now live. Well, that's awesome. I can't wait to play it. Probably play it tonight. And that'll get my first... one of the reasons I'm doing it right now is because I intend to play it tonight. And I'm going to hit it fresh without any preconceptions. So the Jem Hadar, again, I think are slaves during the Dominion War. I think they're still slaves in Star Trek Online. But the question is should they continue to be slaves, and is that right? Let me put this moral quandary out there for you. The Jem Hadar were bred to be slaves and addicted to the white. That's all they've ever known. That's what's bred into them. If there's a really good chance that if you, by the way, Trip Crisp just became a lore master, welcome. There's a really good chance that if you attempted to free them, you would have nothing but anarchy. You would have the destruction of not only the Jem Hadar, but other races, as they couldn't stand or couldn't understand how to be free. And so the question becomes, should you let them be free if it's going to be worse off for them? Or should you continue to enslave them but make it a better life? Is that a false dichotomy? Is it folly to assume that you couldn't free them without without them destroying each other? Warrior 126 becoming the current Super Chat hero of the lore. Thank you so much. Warrior, it is because of Super Chats and things that I can take this to the next level. I got some exciting stuff coming out for the Lore Reloaded, and it's because of Super Chats like you guys, so thank you so much. Let me know if you want me to play any of my animations for you. Got some new animations coming out, and it's because of Super Chats that I can do that. Darth Raven, I think that if the Jem Hadar get their white removed and they create females and they remove the obedience from the DNA, they would be perfect allies for the Klingons. That seems like... I don't disagree, but how do you go about doing that? And is that natural? Is that what needs to be done? And what do you do with the current, for lack of a better word, crop of Jem Hadar? They wouldn't understand that. They wouldn't be able to deal with that. So do you begin to make new Jem Hadar? Well, do you begin to make new Jem Hadar? If all they are slaves, do you continue that race? And if you do you then begin to make Jem Hadar both male and female so that they can start their own society? Do you let the Jem Hadar who currently exist choose if they want a society? And can you really trust that choice given that they are enslaved? They are bred to believe a specific thing. Wanted John Cena? We got some Cena coming at you.
Are you sure about that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Captain George. Oh, they are slaves. They were bred to be a soldier for the founders and to ensure obedience, and they are encoded with an addiction. They are not given any chance to be free without others. Thinking you want freedom is treason. Jem Hadar don't want freedom. Kind of difficult to free a slave race that wants to obey their masters, says Hybrid Jack. Yeah, and that's kind of my point. Do you start re-engineering them, and how would they feel about that? It's like, hey, you've been bred to believe in gods, you've been bred to obey, and now we're going to breed your race the exact opposite of what you believe. How many Jem Hadar would be okay with that? And does it matter if the Jem Hadar are okay with that? Who's to say who has the right choice in that? Should I tell the Jem Hadar what I think they should want? Visho Davis says, or Vico Davis in the Latin, Delvis. Visho Delvis says, or Visho Delvis in Latin, says the Jem Hadar are biological robots. I wonder how many will treat them different as droids because of that. I don't know. Nathan Norman, you could free them slowly, but it may take centuries, but breaking them from the white would be a start, then slow introduction of genders into them, and then a proper life cycle. I'll again ask you this, Nathan, because I'd be curious. Does the opinion of the current generation, let's say, of Jem Hadar matter? Because if you were to tell the Jem Hadar, hey, we're about to do this to you and turn you into everything that you are bred to not to be against, should we do that? And who are we to say what is right and what isn't in that instance? What's going on, Jack Marshall? Always a pleasure to have Jack Marshall here, of course. Jonathan Medina. I think you see plenty of Jem Hadar who want freedom. They're just killed when they express it. I don't know. I would define it as plenty. You see a few. Are you streaming Star Trek Online on Twitch now? I will. I'll be playing the new Victory is Life DLC. Hope everybody can be there. So definitely set it. It'll probably be 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, guys. I would really love it if you could come hang out with me. Current crop, I would place them on a world looked after by new ones, and as for the white, put the full power of the Federation and Romulans on it. Some seem to want to be free. The crazy Ferelden, what's to stop the Jem Hadar from going on a violent rampage? Who could stop them? Well, other Jem Hadar, I would assume. Couldn't we have a mutant gene that sneaks in and causes one single slave to start a new way of thinking and start a rebellion? Seems like somebody's been playing a current PS4 game that I'm not going to mention. Nathan Norman, yes, if they vote not to, then that is their choice. But if a minority want to separate from the majority and make it a start with them. So most are not going to want to do this of the current generation. They don't want to. They don't want to be free. I mean, that's just quite obvious. So I guess that could be a good compromise. That hey, you have the option of being freedom, or you can continue to serve the Dominion. And then those who want to be free could go and start their own lives. But what do you continue to breed Jem Hadar, remove the white addiction, and continue to make them, but without the need or belief? And how does that not start a Jem Hadar civil war? Car Galaxy Studios, I think it would result in Jem Hadar factions vying for power struggles until they all die without re-engineering. They are essentially the same problem with the augments. Mortimus, no PS4 here, just an original thought. Okay, pretty cool. AKA Hugh, the first independent Borg. So here's a thought too. And here's an uncomfortable one. Let's look at the Gamma Quadrant and the Dominion. The Dominion is vast. They've been around for thousands upon thousands of years, depending on which dialogue you want to believe, which Wayun you want to believe. It could be anywhere from 2 to 10,000 generations. Don't forget the Lord Destroyer channel that hasn't been existed yet, but will be.
It's coming up.
It is coming. If we were to remove the Jem Hadar, we've removed the military of the Dominion. Some might consider that a good thing. However, to give an example, in the United States, when the U.S. started cracking down on the mafia, on crime bosses, they would completely and utterly remove crime families or crime syndicates, which would then open up a bloodbath as you now had a power vacuum that kept everything in check. Now, I'm not saying the U.S. shouldn't have done that, but it's something to consider. So you now remove the military of the Dominion. As bad as the Dominion is, you now have this vacuum. You now have this power struggle, and you start having these bloody wars and bloody conflicts. And that's something that has to be considered too. Again, not necessarily saying that we shouldn't go that route, but you have to consider indirect impacts. Hybrid Jack Jonesy, to make the Jem Hadar free, you would have to annihilate their entire culture, not just biologically, but everything about them. That would essentially be impossible, plus violate so many morals. I think that's fair, and I think that's right. They were bred for a specific reason. They have a specific culture. They believe a certain thing. You have to change all of that. So it is a good point to say, well, that's no longer Jem Hadar. So should we just not continue? Should we just let the generations that exist now just die out and let that race go? Because you're effectively making something new, right? Let's see. Jonathan Medina. Jem Hadar freedom relies on breaking their addiction, but without that and their indoctrination, is there anything to keep them together as a people? I don't think, besides the fact that they were created, they had a genesis, a a similar creation story, we'll say, they don't have anything in common. Jace M. Outdoors, did the founders create the Jem Hadar race? We don't have solid evidence one way or the other. It is inferred they did. What I think probably happened with the Jem Hadar is what we do know happened with the Vorta. The Vorta creation myth, well, I can't say myth. The Vorta creation story is that a changeling was being chased, and a Vorta saved the changeling from the solids. And so at that point, what's up, Mr. Pete? Talk to you later, buddy. What happened was the changeling took the Vorta and began to clone them and change them. I think probably the same thing happened with the Jem Hadar. That they found a species that they liked, and they began to clone them and put into them what they wanted into them. Interestingly enough, a theory with that is that they had cloned them, that the Jem Hadar may have been a peaceful people that didn't want to fight or passively resisted the Dominion, and perhaps used technology but weren't fighters by any standard. And so the Dominion came in and warped them into something they never wanted to be. And I kind of like that. It seems very, very Dominion, very changeling. But we don't have any evidence one way or the other. Are there even female Jem Hadar? There are not. Or are they going to be a slave to whoever helps make more of them? There aren't any female Jem Hadar, though they could begin to... Technically, we don't even know if they're a male Jem Hadar. We don't know if they have that. By the way, 70 people watching and only 19 thumbs up. What's up with that, people? Come on. Hit that thumb up button. Just hit it. Just hit it now. We don't know if there are even any male Jem Hadar. But they could begin making male and female Jem Hadar and then introduce a society. But again, this is all playing God. This is now making them not Jem Hadar. Honestly, I think the best resolution, if we were to have a resolution here, would be to give them a choice, and for those who wanted to be free, help them be free, and if they wanted to continue to try to make a society, assist them in that way. Mortimus Maximus says, okay, how about a Darkhook type episode with a Klingon and Jem Hadar soldier? Perhaps the Jem Hadar could learn values as a Klingon and see the benefits of this. The original series movies, Klingons, or maybe the Deep Space Nine Klingons. What's going on, Travis? By the way, if you guys are looking at Travis, you might notice he has a fancy green name with a cool little icon right next to it. That's because he's a sponsor. If you want to become a sponsor and help out the channel, and you're watching online, hit that sponsor button at the top. It's a little green button. Helps me out just as much as super chats. Let's see. Would be interesting to see a Klingon Jem Hadar hybrid. Yeah, I mean, the Klingons basically are the Jem Hadar basically are Klingons. For all intents and purposes. Shifty, is their lifespan artificially low? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know about that. That's an interesting question. I wonder if their lifespan is so low because of the combat and what's required of them versus longevity. It's possible that because Jem Hadar die really quickly, they didn't worry about the expansion of their life or how long they could live. But I don't know. That's a good question. The Jem Hadar seem more like a police in the Gamma Quadrant rather than a military. I would say oppressor more than the police. Honestly, the only time you use the Jem Hadar in the Gamma Quadrant is to enact your will and to keep everyone playing nice. But within your own government, within your own sector, you can do what you want as long as it's not against the will of the founders. And so the Jem Hadar would come in if two governments got into a squabble or if a government decided not to obey their masters. So, I mean, police force, maybe, but I don't know. Is it right for the Federation to engineer them? There be no way to start doing it ethically. Yeah, I don't. I agree. I don't. Um, I don't. Yeah, that's what this is interesting. So that's one of the things I do like about Star Trek Online. They will make you question everything that you've thought. Right? Is it ethical to create a way out for the slave race? Because if you do, you're playing God and you're going against their will, right? Uh, it does state that none of them have ever really lived to an old age because, again, they're sent out to do the work of the founders. Uh, and then we have to look at Odo. So some of you guys have played Victory is Life. I haven't. I assume Victory is Life has Odo in charge of uh, his own Jem Hadar. And these Jem Hadar, I assume, are still slaves to the Dominion. What does that say about Odo? But again, what position is Odo in? All of the things we've discussed, all of the things we've went through, are reasons why you can't free the Jem Hadar. So, do you continue to do this evil? What? How does that work? Wasn't that old Jem Hadar considered old because he was like 6 year old or something like that? I think he was 12 or 13. What's going on, King Mighty? Maybe I might be wrong. I think he was 12 or 13. I think he was becoming an elder. Why is it unethical to genetically engineer a species? We were pretty much doing that for 200,000 years. We have been genetically engineering species for over 200,000 years. To genetically engineer a sentient species, I think, is unethical because that species doesn't have a choice in what you're doing to it, even if it was a positive change. I also don't think that we as humans, and this isn't even from a religious standpoint, but I'm going to say it because it's understandable. I don't think that I think you should be very careful when you play God. I think you should be very, very careful. Lori, can you not click as much, babe? Nathan Norman, he means livestock. We've been genetically engineering livestock for 200,000 years. But I mean, that's a good ethical question, too. I mean, if you have to play the game, babe, and you're going to lose if you don't, then you can. Okay?
I'm going to lose if I don't.
Okay, well, then do what you got to do. I mean, but I think there's a difference between livestock, genetically manipulating livestock, and genetically manipulating a sentient being. Because I don't see a cow as necessarily being on the same status as a human. I don't necessarily see a rabbit having as much value as a human. And I'm sure people are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. You're more than welcome to disagree with me. I'm not here to get into a fight with you. That's just my personal opinion. I feel like they have some sort of advanced... Let's see, Jonathan Medina. I feel like they have some sort of advanced... Again, the one they raise on DS9 grew from child to adult in a few days. Yeah, so the Jem Hadar are made to go from child to adult very, very quickly. But that doesn't... The process can be slowed down after that. Or at least that's what I understand. Nathan Norman, selective breeding is a form of genetic manipulation. Okay. Is it appropriate to selectively breed humans? Do you think Elder Jem Hadar are like generals near the power of Vorta? I don't think they're near the power of Vorta. But I do think that they are considered elders, and they're considered to be very, very powerful and very wise. So, are they near the power of Vorta? No, but I think they could probably be listened to over a Vorta. Are the Jem Hadar sentient? I think they meet all of the requirements outlined by the Federation of being sentient. Extana Rex is the Jem Hadar that was the honor elder since he survived more than 20 years. Sure. Nation building doesn't work in real life and very rarely does. Why would it be different? Because the people who do it have slightly better tech. Says Hybrid Jack. So tie that together for me, Hybrid, because I'm not putting it together. Is there a point to make your slave soldiers to live long? They're going to die in battle anyway. The only reason I'd say to give them longevity would be for peacetime and for experience. It's harder to breed in experience than it is to just let them learn on their own. Are you sure you want to start a eugenics debate? I don't intend to start a eugenics debate, good sir. All I'm asking is, do we do it now, and is it considered ethical by human and society standards? If you think that's different, that'd be on you and a philosopher. I'm asking what current society standards would be, plus my own personal opinion. They were so efficient, they rarely died, though. They easily dominated the quadrant. I wouldn't say easily. We didn't see a ton of what was going on. We only saw them in the Gamma Quadrant at different points. And again, it's stated in dialogue that they never really get to old age. That's a really big deal if they live that long. So we know that they are put into situations where they'll most likely die. So that I don't think that necessarily is debatable, that they were getting killed off a lot. But yeah. Could the Jem Hadar overthrow the Founders and the Dominion? I think they could if you got rid of the white, if you got rid of their belief, but that's one of the reasons they did it. If the Jem Hadar turned against the Dominion, I think that I think the Dominion would be left with no ability to defend themselves. Experience could lead to discontent and then rebellion. If they are cheap, let them die. Hashtag evil logic. That's actually an insidiously good and logical point. Huh. I did not think of that, Visho. Man, you should be an evil dictator. Admiral Balefire, Victory is Life. Victory is Life is exactly why we're talking about this. For those of you who just joined, I will be playing tonight on twitch.tv/Lore Reloaded. I'll be playing Victory is Life. I haven't done any of the background work. I don't know anything that's going to happen. I'll be learning about it live with you guys.
Oh, live? I'll be going to bed when that happens.
You will be in bed when that happens.
I'll wake up and pretty much just say hello and say,
okay. If the Jem Hadar asked to join the Federation, then yes, help them. But until then, ask it's a moot point. Think about it. Well, let me ask you this. If you see a race that is enslaved and that is forced to think a certain way and doesn't ask for help, does that mean that they don't want or need the help?
yes, they do need help.
I mean, most people would, like my daughter just said, say yes, they still need the help. Just because they don't ask for it doesn't mean that they don't need it, right? But what happens, and let's take it this way, what happens if a minority asks but the majority don't want assistance? And what if helping the minority leads to a major war? Where do we go with this? What do we do when it comes to this? I'd be curious. See, again, and I don't think it's as... I don't think it has to be as simplistic as people like to think it is. I think it is more nuanced, right? And we really could even begin to talk about the clone troopers. The interesting thing is, I don't see a difference between the Star Wars clone trooper and a Jem Hadar soldier. They are effectively the same thing. One serves the good guys, one serves the bad guys. Since the Jem Hadar never developed their own warp technology, would the Prime Directive still apply? Yes. Now, this is one of the times where the Prime Directive would still directly apply, in my opinion. because we know that if a foreign power that meets the criteria of interaction through the Prime Directive starts manipulating a non-warp capable or species that doesn't meet the Prime Directive, if they begin to be manipulated, the Federation can stand in. We saw this with Kirk. The Klingons began to do proxy wars with non-warp capable species. And so the Federation stepped in and began assisting in these proxy wars to ensure that the Klingons didn't get a step up. And it was a very interesting discussion. George Captain, could I come on and talk about the clones? Let's do that either later this week or next week, Captain George. I'd be happy to talk about it and have a good old time, but let's not have it for this one. Maybe tonight while I'm playing on... Well, not tonight, because I kind of just want to play the game. But, yeah, let's have it set. Maybe... What is tomorrow? Is tomorrow Wednesday? It is. Let's tentatively say Wednesday around this time. I'll get with you offline. We'll figure it out. Shifty, and this was something I was talking about beforehand, too. The fall of the Dominion would create dozens of Kazon-like species fighting for control in the Gamma Quadrant. I agree. Lorelai, come here. Stand right here where you were standing. And that's a problem. Look right there. See? Look at that thing with the blue. And say hi.
Hi.
Okay. All right, go play. And that's what we were discussing. So the Dominion, the destruction of the Dominion could be horrific. A lot of people could die from this. And so how do you deal with that? By the way, 70 people watching, only 34 likes. Come on, hit the like button. Do it!
More money.
No. The Nietzscheans from Andromeda are a subspecies of genetically engineered humans who religiously follow Nietzsche. Or Nietzsche. I never knew how to say that way. Social Darwinism and Dawkinsian genetic competitiveness. Yeah, they were also the ones that put the... what was it called? I want to say Star League because I did Mech Warrior recently. Put the Commonwealth into a civil war, destroying the Commonwealth itself and plunging the entirety of the galaxy, or 3 galaxies, into the Dark Ages, to where they had defeated and destroyed sicknesses that came back and were just killing off people. So I don't know that the Nietzscheans are the best example of genetic breeding. I love the idea of the Cardassians getting back up to fighting power, as given how much time has passed, and that things they helped out with, like the wars. I need you to expand on that, King Mighty. That could be curious. I think the Jem Hadar have a similar function to the Death Star, just the fear of them keeps most of the Dominion in line. Yeah, and we even see that, right? What's going on, Stuart Imperial? Hope you're doing well. We even see that, though. They in the early Deep Space Nine, when we were first meeting the Dominion, one of those species says, I don't know if the Founders exist or not, but what I do know is that the Vorta come and tell you to do something, and then if you don't, the Jem Hadar come and they kill you. And that is, they do the fear of power versus power itself, or whatever, fear of strength versus fear itself. The Tarkin Doctrine. Travis, talking about the Nietzscheans, yeah, but they did so because of the Magog and the Commonwealth's soft reaction to them. Sure, I mean, every military power, every insurrection has always had what they considered a good reason to go to war. And in fact, in later seasons, there's even more to it than that. But yeah. So... we really need to do a lore reloaded or a lore in the past or a geek breakdown of Andromeda. That could be fun. Though probably like five people would show up. That's about it.
We need as many people
So I don't really feel like we have an answer to this. I don't feel like there is a good answer to this. If I was going to do something, I've stated this before, but if I were in charge, man, I don't know. Okay, so if we're going to free... What's going on, Andre? Andre, haven't seen you in forever, buddy. Hope everything's going okay. Next time there's a convention, you and me need to hang out. So if you're going to free the Jem Hadar, then you have to worry about the Gamma Quadrant. So what does Starfleet do? Let's say it's Starfleet that's decided, hey, we need to impose this on the Gamma Quadrant. You need to free your slaves. Does Starfleet then come in and start? Does Starfleet then come in and then take over the Gamma Quadrant? Start policing the Gamma Quadrant? Do they say, okay, the Dominion is effectively going to be destroyed, so we're now going to be the dominant power in the Gamma Quadrant, and we're going to keep all of you guys, in check? Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about, Nathan Norman. If the Dominion fell, then you have an entire quadrant plunge into anarchy and cause more death than the Dominion would ever kill as punishments. Yeah, I mean, what do you do with that? How does that work? You can't stop that. So is the Dominion a necessary evil? I guess you could try to start having the Dominion create free, quote-unquote, Jem Hadar. So here's an idea. So maybe this is how we fix our ethical quandary. You can't let it fall into anarchy. That doesn't seem like an ethical thing or a moral thing to do. So, you begin manufacturing female and male Jem Hadar that have a choice, that get to push for change within the Dominion, and you can either serve the Dominion or you can go do your own thing. Those who serve the Dominion would ultimately begin to replace the Jem Hadar who didn't have a choice. And so you would slowly move it into a democracy. You would also then allow the other species to become a part of the Dominion, to join the Dominion military. This isn't without problems. This isn't without issues. Definitely, I think that you would see... Andre, finally got the stream. What's going on, buddy? Glad to see you here. This isn't without its own particulars, but it seems like the best chance, because the Starfleet coming in and just saying, hey, we're going to take over, we're going to start policing, everybody listen to us now. That doesn't seem right. To Hybrid Jack says Starfleet would be no better than the Dominion. Eventually, they would be forced to make a choice of using force to suppress the violence or not letting chaos roam. Yeah, ultimately, the Starfleet, the Federation, would be benevolent oppressors. Another option, I guess, is you could stop the production of the Jem Hadar wholesale and then slowly begin to move governments into self-policing and helping them. You know? How would the Federation react to the Jem Hadar if the Dominion was their ally? You know, interestingly enough, whether they've done it on purpose or not, the Federation reminds me... I don't know if I want to say this, but I'm going to. Let's not get too political with this in the real world. I'm just making this illusion. The Federation reminds me a lot of the United States. That is to say, the United States will be very understanding and accepting of other cultures if you're an ally, but will be very critical of enemies for doing similar things. We see this in the Federation. When the Dominion were first met, the Starfleet and the Federation tried to do everything to be at peace with them. Didn't really go out of their way to talk about Jem Hadar rights or Vorto rights. We see in the Next Generation a species that when the child is born, they remove a part of the brain and put electronics in, put technology in. And they're okay with that, and yet the Borg are somehow the worst enemy on the face of the planet. the Starfleet was okay. Okay is a strong term for what I'm about to say. Starfleet was willing to accept Cardassian subjugation, Klingon subjugation, Romulan subjugation of other species for peace. And we saw that even into The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. Romulan subjugated peoples past the Dominion Wars with the Remans, and the Federation was more than happy to be allies with them. The Klingons are some of the strongest allies they had. Most of those species, while during TNG now would be considered citizens and have rights, were initially subjugated and probably don't have the ability to leave the Klingon Empire if they wanted to. And I've already mentioned this Cardassians. I think the Dominion would be no different. I think they would just say, different culture, let's not try to change it. In fact, Discovery is probably the first time one of the first times that you start to see diversity being imposed upon other cultures. Jeff Hannon. The Dominion has reigned for thousands of years. Who's left in the Gamma Quadrant to cause chaos? The Karima were peaceful traders, and the Teplins lost all of their technology. Yeah, but there were thousands of species that had been subjugated. And we know that most all technology from the Dominion was created by those subjugated species. Their weapons, their ships, their personal weapons. All of that was made by other species. So they had the weapons, they had the technology. And so to release them and allow them to use that technology, in my opinion, is dangerous. The only thing that... Michael Leith. Who were better soldiers, the Jem Hadar or clone troopers? I would say the clone troopers, because they think more outside of the box than the Jem Hadar would. Yeah, I would definitely put my money on clone troopers. The only thing that may be is to work with the founders and have the Jem Hadar be a workforce instead of soldiers. That could be a transition period. Yeah, but then you'd have to, again, be making the Jem Hadar, be selectively breeding them to be workers, not soldiers. Starfleet does have a so long as it's not in my backyard approach to suffering. And that is very true, Jonathan Medina. Absolutely. They hate getting into scuffles. They're forced. Starfleet consistently past the original series consistently will only react if thousands upon thousands of people are dead and Starfleet ships are destroyed. The Federation did not. They did what they tried to do to the Klingons in Discovery. Bowl them over and go exploring their territory. The Federation was violating territorial sovereignty. Well, I mean, when it comes to the Dominion and the Gamma Quadrant, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the interesting thing. So a lot of people like to put it on the Dominion for the war starting and everything like that. And let me say this. The Dominion is evil, and they did want to fight. But when you look at what Starfleet did, absolutely. So Starfleet was told, without measure, was told under no circumstances are they to enter into the Gamma Quadrant and continue exploring. In fact, the Dominion, to make its point, destroyed several colonies as well as the Odyssey. And what does the Federation do? What does Starfleet do? Well, they don't go to war with the Dominion. They just continue to explore the Gamma Quadrant and send ships through like nothing happened. And again, I'm not saying that was worth what the Dominion did to them, but yeah, Starfleet did not at any point respect Dominion territory. The UFP shows just how toxically pacifistic it is when it swallows its morals and ethics in order to avoid the mere mention of conflict. I would agree with that. Yeah, especially TNG. Here's the interesting thing. The Next Generation was written by Gene Roddenberry. It was supposed to be this utopia. It was supposed to be what he always wanted it to be. And how is it written? It is written in a way that shows how his mentality fails. It shows why you can't do what he wants. And he's the one to write it. To be fair, the later seasons he didn't write. But still, you know. How would the mirror universe look like if the Terran Empire had Jem Hadar as Soldier? Interestingly enough, Thursday I'll be doing a new Lorecraft. Terran Empire versus Starfleet. I actually was working on that script before I went live. I think you guys will like it, and I kind of include that. To Zoom Gary, that is not true. The only ship sent into the Gamma Quadrant after the warning was the Defiant to attempt diplomatic contact. Untrue. Through dialogue in Deep Space Nine, several different ships continued to go through the wormhole. And they even talked about Starfleet ships, military assets going missing in the Gamma Quadrant post that warning. They allowed trade, they allowed Starfleet ships, and they allowed other foreign powers to go through. And so it's through dialogue. I'll give you that. We never see it. It's in the dialogue, and a lot of it's mentioned offhand, but they did have ships go through. And I mean, you'd have to rewatch those seasons, but it's definitely there. I went to check that myself after I heard that, because at first I was like, wait a second, they didn't do that, but they did. It's in the dialogue. How would Captain Kirk deal with the Dominion? He would, she's not paying attention. No, he would bed the female changeling and then become emperor of the Dominion, and that's how it would have done. Every utopia is a dystopia from the right point of view, either because of what is and you did to achieve it, or are doing to maintain it. I could honestly see that. I think Jellica showed us that si vis pacem parabellum is still a principle known to the Federation. Yeah, I could see that. So, what's up, Ty Coles? I guess, I mean, if you guys have anything else to add to that, we can continue along that conversation. I'd be more... Andre Neiman, my good sir, can you inform us to the source of that clicking noise in the background? Hey, Lorelai? Person I just doxed, can you walk over here? Can you stand right here for a second?
Okay.
Wave to that thing, to the blue. Thank you. Okay, go play. That would be the source. Good, Andre.
I'm Moreland. The source is my mouse, not me.
If it's getting too annoying, let me know. I can have her go play downstairs, but she enjoys the computer.
She will.
Go back playing, baby. Didn't the Federation lose 3 starships and the Klingons 2 state-of-the-art Vorcha class ships in the Gamma Quadrant? I think the Federation lost more than 3. I don't know about the Klingons. I didn't know that. Yeah, let me know if the clicking is too much, and she can go play downstairs. But I didn't think it'd be a big deal. What's going on, Carlo? Hope you're doing well. So we can talk about the clones for a moment or two, if you guys want to, from Star Wars, because the Jem Hadar are from an evil race, right? So they're obviously slaves. It's a horrible thing to do. Resolute Germ, your daughter must think you're crazy. Nope, she's just a lot like me. So
My dad's not crazy.
see, she doesn't even think I'm crazy. Boom.
Whoever said that I think my dad's crazy, you're crazy.
So the Clone Wars, or the clones, were basically slaves by the good guys. The Jedi had absolutely no problem with this. It never even comes up. During the Clone Wars series, there was a bill to try to free them but that never really went anywhere. So my question to you is, and me and Captain George will get together to talk about this more in a series, but my question to you guys is, was it wrong for the clones?
More clicking, Dad.
All right, Lori, don't bring it up, baby. Was it wrong for the clones to be owned by the Republic, just like it was by the Jem Hadar? Bonus points for the question: if there was no other way to fight the Confederacy, would you still do it? Is it a necessary evil? Travis says, clones are from an evil source as well, with Sidious and Dooku using Jedi Master Sifo Dyas to create them. Sure. But my question is the Jedi went along with it? Is this an evil act? Was it an evil act? The Jedi felt like they had no other choice. And so that's where the moral quandary comes to me. It goes back to... and so while... back to the movies, when Yoda says, I didn't see any other choice, this was the best way to save lives... I wonder if it's a necessary evil for the Jedi. I don't know that I wouldn't have made the same choice to save the Republic if I believed the Republic was about to be taken over by an oppressive Sith. But what are your guys' thoughts? Trippy one says, you have children, I have kids, and while I don't do a YouTube channel, I'm still a writer, and my kids play around with me when I write. So anyone who has a problem with your mini-me is a moron. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'd have a problem with her, just the clicking. But yeah, I mean, my kids, you know, I'm in a situation where I take care of my kids all of the time. So, you know, they're a part of me. They're the best part of everything I do. And they're one of the reasons the Lore Reloaded exists. Your continued support helps me support them, and that's one of the reasons I do it. That, and I love what I do.
Help us live.
Yep, and help them live. The Confederacy, no. The Confederacy was just another democratic state that wanted independence. If it was a Star Wars version of, say, the Nazis, then yes. Unfortunately, well, on the face of it, I agree with you that it was the Confederacy was just a democracy that wanted out. And the Republic basically said, hey, you know, we're not going to let you leave. That's what it looks like on the face of it. But the Jedi knew that the Confederacy was being controlled by an evil Sith Lord who would ultimately plunge the entire galaxy into oppression. And so you can't necessarily allow him to continue because he would destroy everything ultimately and make it look like it was coming from a good point. Make it look like it was coming from a righteous point. So do you still do this evil to try to stop him? Jeff Hennon, Palpatine was a genius and possibly altruistic. He orchestrated a war between disposable clones and disposable droids, protecting innocent lives. I don't know I'd go that far, but that's one way to look at it. Tribute one, hell yes. Hell yes, the ownership of any sapient... One second. Hell yes, the ownership of any sapient life form is evil, but I'm sure if the Jedi were able to win in the end, they would have freed the clones and paid them for their service.
Now can I speak?
Yeah, what were you going to say?
I just want to tell everybody that my dad does war, but I haven't watched every thing. And my dad does what's your name?
What do? I do lore reloaded, lore stuff.
No, what's your main thing? You know, back there, all the battleships.
I don't know, baby. Go. I need to finish this up, sweetie.
You don't
So here's my thing. The Jedi towards the end didn't seem to necessarily care about the clones. And let's look at Ahsoka and let's look at Anakin, and then what was her name? She was in both Clone Wars and Rebels. She had the face art, and she was green. And there's a picture of her right now. Jedi Master. Don't play. Luminara. There we go. So let's look at Anakin, let's look at Ahsoka, and let's look at Luminara. All three of these, one of them a Jedi Master, one of them a Jedi Knight, one of them a Jedi Padawan, did not care completely about their soldiers, about their clones. And even Obi-Wan didn't necessarily care about his clones. Ahsoka, during one episode, was betrayed, and she slaughtered them. Now, that was self-defense. I'm not mad about that. But she says very dismissively, it's like, oh, well, that was my friend. That's unfortunate. Anakin gets his clones killed constantly. And Luminara, Anakin did seem to care somewhat, but Luminara did not at all. They were absolutely tools. That's all the clones were ever to Luminara. And then Obi-Wan, when he was betrayed, he was calling back. He's like, hey, my clones turned against me. Not my friends, my allies, the army, for some reason have gone mad. No, this tool has turned against me. So did the Jedi really care? Would they have freed them? Would they have freed them? Would they have let them go? I don't know. I mean, SC2Al, that I will grant that is a good point. I think if you're a general in a war and you lose a lot of soldiers, there must be a point where you get emotionally detached. I concur with that, but I think that also speaks to the fact that they're making so many and they're sending so many off to die that they stop being people. Yeah, I mean, I was saying she was both in Rebels and Clone Wars. I didn't say that she did anything in Rebels. By the way, if you guys are watching this, don't forget to hit that like button. 55 with 83 watching. In the opening scene of the third movie, Anakin would go back and help the clone pilots, but Obi-Wan stopped him and said, they're doing their job so we can do ours. Yes, I realize in the movies they rewrote Anakin and tried to make him sympathetic for like 10 seconds. But in the actual cartoons or the animations, I think there was a lot more dismissive. And even in the movies, past that point, they were pretty dismissive. I hated Anakin in the live-action movies. Honestly, I did not... yeah, one dislike anti-trekker is here already. I did not think Anakin was realistic or believable in the movies. It took the animated series of Clone Wars to make him real to me. Smist Gomon, hope you're doing well. The Jedi plunged the galaxy into war prematurely in a desire to bring down the Sith and stop an assassin. They ruined any chance of diplomatic efforts to reduce support for the Confederacy. That's somewhat true, but then again, you have to remember the Jedi, a good portion of the Jedi, including Mace Windu, would be slaughtered had Yoda not brought the military in. So, should we have done that? I don't know. As someone who has experienced a lot of death, and I can agree with you, quickly become desensitized to it. Okay. Trip the trippy one. I was an officer in the United States Marine Corps, and you do love your men, but you also know that the mission comes first. And if you have to expend 90% of them, you do your mission. Sure, but you still feel. I mean, humans, I honestly believe, and people, you guys may disagree with me, I honestly believe that humans, as a social creation, weren't designed for war. We weren't made to wantonly kill and destroy each other. Maybe originally, maybe in our past, but since generation after generation, I just don't think that's what we've designed for. And I think there's more loss to it than what they portrayed. Theoretical question. Borg versus Dominion in an all-out war, who would win? I actually, U.S. Enterprise in X01, have a video, a lorecraft. So if you want to know my opinion on it, you should go find that in my videos and see how I thought a war like that would end up.
Probably.
Nathan Norman, in the old lore, the Sith did nothing wrong. The Jedi started a program against them because of religious differences. What we were watching is a holy war between two factions that never ends. That's interesting. I've read a lot of expanded universe. I don't remember that. Can you, Nathan? Let me know the books on that. I'd be interested in reading that. That's curious. Hybrid Jack, that's the point. The Jedi never should have been on Geonosis. It was a sovereign world that had declared independence, and yet the Jedi waltzed right in to try to take the head of state prisoner. Yeah, and you know, Barriss Offee, what she did was wrong, but her mentality wasn't. The war changed the Jedi. The Jedi, well, first off, 1,000 generations of peace made the Jedi egotistical, made them feel unbeatable, and that's why they walked on Geonosis. What's going on, hello world? And so then the war changed the Jedi to be militaristic. So that is, I think that would be their downfall. The trippy one, no, we're not, and which is why I have massive PTSD from service LR and why I try to not live in the real world anymore, which is why I enjoy your channels and others. Well, you know, Trip, if there's anything I can do, buddy, you know, send me an email, james@lorereloaded.com. Thank you for your service. I'm sorry that happened, and I'm glad that my videos can give you some respite. That's one of the coolest things about being an entertainer, beyond being this is my job, is the fact that I can help people in some small way. And I mean that sincerely. It's really cool, and I'm glad that I can be there for you in that way. And, you know, if there's ever anything I can do within reason, let me know. I'll definitely try to help out. As much as I like the Jedi, as much as I like the Jedi, I like the average soldier, as they were more brave than the Jedi and Sith, as the soldiers gave everything than a few heroes. Yeah, they walked in, and they fought with no superpowers. Red Snopa, yes, my name is James. Has been all of my life, good sir. All of my life. Good sir. 1,000 generations equals 2,500 years. I don't know. I assume. I mean, it depends on how long a generation survives, but sure. Then the Republic was at peace for 2,500 years. You will create a warrior class. Well, the Jedi, I think, were for all intents and purposes. Red Snopa's name is James. Well, maybe I'm your dad. I mean, I guess that's the correct answer to it, by the way, right? All right, guys, we're going to be coming to an ending very shortly. My Mech Warrior video will be out today. It is a 15-minute video just to explain what the hell a mech is. Everybody watching here, when that goes live, watch it all the way through. Even if you don't care about Battletech, it helps me out. Watch it all the way through. Can the Borg assimilate a member of the founder species? This always comes up. My answer to that is yes, because there was a virus that infected specific cells of the changelings, and where there are cells, nanoprobes can assimilate. So I believe the answer to that is yes. Plus, the trippy one asked, your girl asked if we were related. I don't know. Are we? Are you like I was going to say descendant. You couldn't be a descendant. Are we family? 1 generation is 15 years. That's not possible. People live longer than 15 years. Google tells me the average age of mothers at birth of their first child was 20, and at the age birth 31, giving a meaning of 25.5 years per female generation, says Google. That actually seems a lot lower. Okay, whatever. I mean, I don't know. That is the dialogue. Michael Leith, I could care less about Battletech, unsubscribed. Well, that's fine. I mean, you know, if you don't want to listen to the best lore ever. Who doesn't know what a mech or mech is? Who hasn't seen Gundam or Macross? I actually haven't seen Macross. A lot of people keep telling me to watch it. Laura, will you ever do anything with 40K? Probably, but I got to get some of this other stuff out of the way first. Marlinda Fish stopping by to say hi. Marlinda Fish is actually a patron of the lore as well. Thanks so much for your support, buddy. And yeah, Trippy the Trippy one, 25 years. Okay, well, I mean, I thought generation was like 60. I thought it was an actual generation of people, which generally at this point is like, what, 60 years? So, I mean, I was wrong. Thank you for the lore while I'm cooking. Well, hey, man, in about 30 minutes, you'll see another lore, so we got that going out. All right, anything else before we end it? You dig giant robots. I dig giant robots. We dig giant robots. Chicks dig giant robots.
I do not dig giant robots.
Everybody digs giant robots.
I don't.
I wonder if there is a difference between a mech and a mobile suit. Yes, there is a drastic difference between a mech and a mobile suit. Which you will be able to see when you look at my Battletech breakdown in less than 30 minutes. When will we get B5 content? Very, very soon, especially since it's now on Amazon Prime and I can actually get the resources for it. Macross first series is as the first series of Robotech with a few name changes. Okay. You should, lore, if you like good science fiction with as much as you do. I'd love to do a breakdown including Macross, but everybody I've talked to tells me Macross is pretty trigger happy when it comes to the content ID and copyright. They're basically the CBS of animation, so I don't know how long it would go. Oh, good. Now everybody's going to call me James. I love that. We should definitely do that. Do you think you'll do more Star Trek Online videos? They are very fun to watch. I will, but I'm doing Star Trek Online tonight at twitch.tv/Lore Reloaded. You guys should come hang out. I'm going to be doing Victory is Life as a Virgin. No idea what it's going to look like. No idea what it is. I'm going to be doing it live as pure as Mary was when she had the miraculous birth. Guys, I want to thank you so much for watching this. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I'm going to see you on the next Lore Reloaded.